Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
And I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health. Join us as we try out new things, or as we call it, weird shit, and have some fun along the way.
Hello, everyone. This is Trish from the Wellness Empowerment Project, and we're doing things a little differently today. We thought we would try something called a little pocket wellness. They're going to be short little bites talking about different aspects of health and wellness. I wanted to talk to you today about this verbiage I feel like we hear a lot. I remember one of my old bosses always saying the word perception is reality. What I noticed though is that they would say this to us, and I say they, it would be some of our leaders would say this when we've gotten feedback, maybe from other people, but it was very much distributed in this thought of we need to honor their perception because that is the reality. And therefore, if we don't like it, we need to be able to change them. At least that's how I was very much taking it at that point. I actually even remember my boss got some feedback about her moving her arms too much. She said at some point, she was like, there's something someone is never happy about, and it's going to get to the point where you're not even you anymore. That was a very poignant time because I remember her saying that, and I'm thinking, yeah, so we can't take every single perception as a reason to go and make a change. I wanted to dive into this as well from a kind of different aspect. Because, yes, if we take everyone else's perception as reality of us to heart or as taken as something that we need to change, you're never going to be able to make anyone happy, or you're going to be changing yourself to the point where you're not even you anymore and you can't recognize yourself. None of which is it's healthy for us mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. If we want to look at perception, I first went back to, yes, Webster, and the definition of perception is it's the result, of course, it used the word perceiving, but then it went on and said the result of observing. So perceptions are observations. And the term perception itself has been studied a lot in psychology with multiple different theories, multiple different components of it. Perception from the psychological point of view, it's the process of taking lower level information from the senses and processing it to a higher level. I feel like that is a very different way to take it. When we're observing, we are using our senses. So it could be taste, smell, sight, touch, hearing, but there's also the senses of interoception, how we feel internally, propioception, how our body is physically moving, and how we physically are interacting and balancing in that world around us. So if you start to dive deeper, what are our perceptions based on? I narrowed it down to three big components. So first, we all have our own inherent beliefs and view of the world. It could be our own expectations. And we may not necessarily be consciously aware of it, but they're basic beliefs that we've always had and always felt and we've always worked in and been almost like we've been programmed in some way. It very well could be that you always have to work hard to succeed, and that working hard means long hours and exhaustion if you want to make X amount of dollars. It could be the belief that everyone is always doing their best. It also could be the belief that you don't think everyone is trying to do their best, or a belief that I used to hold was that if you want something to do right, then you must do it yourself. A lot of these could be passed down from our families and how we were raised. It could also just be in the systems and structures that we grew up with and things that some of it may have been directly told, others could have been indirectly implied, and that we have taken on as our own internal belief. It also could be a belief about how the systems and structures that we live in work versus how we interact in different areas of our life. So that's one, our expectations or our inherent beliefs. Another piece that perception is based on would be past event or memories. It could be with a person, place. It could even be associated with more or less the word archetype, i.e. a symbol. It could be symbolic. So it could be you see something and it triggers an emotional response from you or it brings you back to a previous memory. I think we all remember or have memories of maybe cooking, coming to grandma's house and smelling cookies in the oven or something, and it brings you back to a nicer place. But the other side could be true too. People could, have had a previous bad experience with it could be an individual, it could be a system, it could be a location. And then every time they do something similar, but maybe not exact, it may not be the same person, it may not be the same system, maybe not be the same process. Those memories come back to them. It may not always be consciously, it may be subconsciously, but they're having a reaction based upon that memory that's been ingrained with them. And the third piece I want to bring us into conversation about what our perceptions are based on also could be our nervous system. If our nervous system is in a regulated state where you're able to go in to the fight or flight response when needed, but also bring yourself back into regulation. It could also be, do you have a greater threshold of being in a regulated state, or is that threshold very narrow and you tend to go into the dysregulation, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, fawn, any of those. And also, a lot of people can be living in those dysregulated states because they've been living in it for so long. It's essentially their norm, and their bodies have become addicted to the serotonin, the dopamine, all those chemicals that get released. So you're almost always constantly in that mode because you are getting essentially something back, which is that feeling of those chemicals being released every single time, even though you consciously may not enjoy it. So, what all three of these really have, when we're talking about perception, it's our expectations, our memories, and our nervous system that's processing all the information. All of these are very subconscious, which means that we are not actually consciously aware of it taking place. So, if that's what's occurring, it really made me question, especially when we're getting feedback from someone else as well. As an outside observer, are you ever actually able to change someone's perception? Because if someone's perception of you is very much comprised of subconscious mechanisms that are in place, how much control do we really have? And this really brought me to looking at the double slit experiment in quantum physics or quantum mechanics is what it really delve into. So if you're not familiar of it, it's Young's experiment, and pretty much they put a slit behind a screen or in front of a screen, and it was sending out particles. And when they send out the particles, it went through that tiny slit, and on the back, they were showing this particle pattern. They were like, yes, that's great. That's what we expected. Then they put two slits and they did the light, and the wave pattern formed through the slit. And they're like, okay. But then they set up a camera because they were like, so we've already shown that light is a particle and it's a wave. But then they set up a camera and they look. And with the double slits that originally were showing a waveform coming through, with the camera observing, it now is showing particles on the back wall. So then they removed the camera and they went back and saw a wave pattern. I think they went back again, put up the camera, and saw a particle. So this was the interesting thing, that the only thing changed between it showing up as a wave or particle was the observation piece, which really raises a lot of questions of what is reality? Does all light and matter change when someone's looking? Because we are matter. So are we behaving and changing differently when someone is looking at us? Why does the observation even change the particles in the first place to be functioning as a wave or not? But the other thing I really got too was when we're looking at this, the observation in this experiment, could that also be another word, or I think it is another word for our awareness, i.e., our consciousness? So, really, the question is, how can we change our subconscious beliefs or patterns to bring them to our awareness? And if we're able to do that, are we able to affect the way other people perceive us? I know that we're all, whenever we're looking for a transformation or any sort of change in our life, nothing can really begin until it comes into our awareness. And that awareness is our consciousness. And that is when we are first able to start observing the situation that we have. But what we don't always talk about is how we get into these subconscious patterns and habits. A lot of that is the way we live our life on a day-to-day basis. A lot of it's from the beliefs that we have unconsciously held, the events that have never really been worked through. And it's all done through the filter of our own nervous system. So I'd love to know what you guys thought of this short and sweet episode. We'd like to do more pocket wellness. I would like to do a short series continuing on this topic and starting to dive in more to how can we change our subconscious patterns and beliefs, going into the vagus nerve itself, also bringing up some more on how can we affect others. And that would be diving into a little bit on co-regulation. So I hope everyone is doing well and having a great day. I hope you enjoyed our first edition of Pocket Wellness. Please send us an email and let us know what you think and or what topics you want to hear more of. Have a good day. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend. Want to learn more about a specific topic? Drop us a line on our website and we can explore it deeper with you.